Our marriage was on the brink of collapse until we rediscovered the Catholic faith. Let me tell you how. Marriage isn't easy. It's filled with highs, lows, and all the struggles in between. For us, those struggles brought us to the edge, to the point where we weren't sure we'd make it. We tried everything. Advice from friends, self-help books, countless date nights. But nothing seemed to work. It felt like we were stuck in a cycle of blame, silence, and resentment. Have you ever felt that way in a relationship? Then, at our lowest, we turned to the one thing we'd been overlooking, our faith. It wasn't an instant fix, and it didn't erase all the pain, but it gave us something even stronger. A way to rebuild, to see each other in a new light, and to find hope in what seemed hopeless. In this video, I want to share our story, the honest, messy, faith-filled journey that not only saved our marriage but also gave us a purpose and connection we didn't know was possible. When we first got married, we were full of dreams and promises. Love felt unstoppable, like we could conquer anything together. But over the years, those dreams got buried under daily stresses, arguments, and disappointments. Little by little, the laughter faded. We were barely talking anymore, and when we did, it was tense, like we were walking on eggshells. I'll never forget the moment I looked at my spouse and thought, "Do I even know you anymore?" Marriage has this way of showing you parts of yourself that aren't always easy to face. I was frustrated with all the ways I thought they'd let me down, but I also couldn't ignore my own faults. We both carried so much resentment, and it felt like we were just keeping score. Every argument was a reminder of something we'd buried instead of dealing with. There were days when I honestly questioned if we'd made a mistake, if maybe we were just too different to make this work. We tried to talk things through, but even that felt hopeless sometimes. Every conversation turned into a fight or just ended in silence. I'd read all the relationship books, listened to friends' advice, tried the date nights, but nothing seemed to change. There were nights when I lay awake wondering, is this just what marriage becomes? It was a painful thought because deep down I didn't want to give up, but I had no idea where to turn for something real, something that could actually bring us back together. And then, in one of those low moments, it hit me, maybe we couldn't do this on our own. We had tried everything else, but we hadn't really opened up to the one thing that could give us strength beyond ourselves, our faith. We were desperate, and at that point, it felt like the only thing left to try. Little did we know, this step would lead us somewhere we'd never imagined, somewhere that would change everything. When we decided to turn to faith, it wasn't an instant fix. It was a slow, humbling journey. We didn't even know where to start. Our first step was simply going back to Mass together. At first, it felt awkward, like we didn't fully belong anymore. But as we sat there, hearing words we hadn't paid attention to in years, something started to shift. There was this sense of calm, a feeling that maybe we weren't alone in this struggle. Slowly, Sunday Mass became less of an obligation and more of a refuge, a place where we could be vulnerable and open ourselves to something greater than our own pain. Praying together felt even harder. Honestly, it felt strange and vulnerable. We'd been sharing a home, a life, yet here we were, unsure of how to share our hearts in prayer. I remember the first time we tried. It was clumsy and uncomfortable. But as the days passed, that discomfort faded, and prayer became this shared space, almost like a language only we understood. It was in those quiet moments that I saw a side of my spouse I hadn't seen in years. There was a softness, a humility, and gradually, that humility began to heal wounds we thought would stay with us forever. As we continued to lean into our faith, I started seeing things differently. Where I once only saw flaws and unmet expectations, I began to see my spouse as a person, a child of God with their own struggles and dreams. It wasn't just about fixing them or them fixing me anymore. It was about learning to accept each other, to truly forgive. We began reading passages together, especially ones about love and patience. And it was like each verse was peeling back layers of bitterness, helping us to understand and empathize with each other again. This process wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. There were days we stumbled back into old habits, arguments that left us questioning if we'd made any progress at all. But every time, faith pulled us back, reminding us why we were trying. Little by little, our marriage was transforming. Not through our own strength, but through the grace we were finally open to receiving. For the first time in years, we were working together, not against each other. And that realization alone was like a light breaking through the darkest parts of our marriage. Learning to forgive was one of the hardest parts. I always thought forgiveness was something that happened instantly. You just decide to let go, right? But I realized it's not that simple. Through our faith journey, I learned that forgiveness is a daily choice, an act of love that takes work. There were times I wanted to hold on to the hurt, to stay angry because it felt justified. But I kept reminding myself of Christ's words on forgiveness, and slowly, they started to soften my heart. Choosing forgiveness each day allowed me to see my spouse as someone who deserved grace, just like I did. Patience went hand in hand with forgiveness, and honestly, it wasn't any easier. There were moments when I'd think, why aren't things changing faster? Why are we still struggling? But each time, I'd feel a nudge, like God was saying, trust the process. I learned that patience doesn't mean tolerating things that hurt us. It means being compassionate with each other as we grow. Every time I chose patience, I felt a little closer to my spouse, like we were growing in understanding. It was a new feeling, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hope for us. One breakthrough moment came when we finally talked openly about our mistakes. We each admitted to things we'd been holding back, things we were ashamed of or afraid to confront. It was painful, but it felt freeing. Instead of getting defensive, we listened. I realized that my spouse wasn't my enemy. We were both just two broken people trying to heal. Through faith, we learned to stop aiming our pain at each other and to let God be part of that healing. There's no easy way to explain it, but facing those truths was like clearing out a weight we'd been carrying for years. With each step, forgiveness and patience started to feel less like a chore and more like gifts we were giving each other. I noticed that I could look at my spouse with love again, not just as the person who'd hurt me, but as the person I'd chosen to love, flaws and all. And I felt that love coming back to me, in the small acts of kindness, in the unspoken gestures of care. For the first time in a long time, we felt like a team, building a foundation that was finally solid. And that feeling, it was worth every struggle. After everything we went through, we knew that our faith had to be at the center of our marriage from now on. It wasn't just about fixing our relationship. It was about building something new, something stronger. We started looking for ways to deepen our spiritual life together, attending retreats, joining a faith-based marriage group, and even just spending a few minutes every night in prayer. Those small, consistent practices helped us keep God at the heart of our relationship, and we saw how His presence made us stronger, more united. Our new approach to faith wasn't just about doing religious things. It was about letting our beliefs shape how we treated each other every day. We found ourselves handling disagreements differently, taking a step back, thinking about what would bring peace rather than just winning the argument. This shift changed everything. It wasn't that we never fought, but our conflicts now had a different tone. There was a level of respect, a willingness to listen that hadn't been there before. It was humbling, realizing that faith was teaching us to see each other through God's eyes. Faith also gave us the courage to dream again. Before, we'd stopped looking forward, like all we could do was survive each day. But now we started talking about the future, making plans together, and setting goals for our family and our marriage. We began to dream together as partners, something I hadn't thought possible during our darkest days. I saw how our faith could not only heal wounds from the past, but also create new possibilities. It was like we'd found a new purpose, not just as individuals, but as a couple walking this path together. Looking back, I know we wouldn't have made it without faith. It wasn't an instant cure, but it was the strength that carried us through, giving us hope and helping us see each other in a new light. Our marriage isn't perfect, it never will be. But now, we know where to turn in the hard times, and we have a foundation built on something unbreakable. And if our story can inspire even one other couple to seek that same strength, then every struggle, every tear, will have been worth it. So, that's our story. A journey of heartbreak, healing, and ultimately hope. Looking back, I realized that true strength in marriage doesn't come from trying to fix each other or pretending we're perfect. It comes from opening up, leaning into faith, and committing to see each other as God sees us, worthy of love, forgiveness, and understanding. We didn't just restore what we'd lost, we built something new, rooted in trust and faith. If you're facing a tough season in your relationship, consider taking a step toward faith. Ask yourself, What would it look like if you allowed God into the heart of your marriage? Could forgiveness, patience, and shared faith bring you closer than ever? Just remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a strength and faith waiting for you to tap into. Ready to take your faith journey to the next level? Get your copy of the Yearly Prayer and Reflection Journal today and experience the power of daily prayer, reflection, and spiritual growth. Whether you're seeking a deeper connection with God, looking for guidance, or simply need a source of encouragement, this journal is your perfect companion. Don't wait. Start your transformative journey now, and let God's Word shape your life one day at a time. Click the link in the comments and begin living a more purposeful, faith-filled year. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Let's keep learning, growing, and finding faith together.